Am I good to go?
It wasn't live before. I think now it's just live on Facebook or X and Twitter.
Well, we'll check things out. Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Baker. We are figuring out. This is my first time on StreamYard, but happy election night here in West Virginia, May of 2024. We are here. It is primary night in West Virginia. A lot of really interesting, cool, and fascinating races that we've got happening here tonight. And we're going to be talking about a lot of them over the next hour. We're going to have some folks coming in to help us here to kind of do this. But first, let's talk a little bit. We're going to work our way from the very top on the way down. And the AP already tonight has called Joe Biden and Donald Trump as the winners of their obvious races. These are going to be the two we're going to be seeing in a rematch of the 2020 presidential election. So that has already been decided. We are kind of keeping up here tonight and looking to see if we have anybody else called right now. We have some numbers that have come in, but nothing statewide that has been called quite yet. So we're going to be discussing a lot of things. Do have some friends that are going to be joining us tonight. I'm going to welcome in first Erica Storch. Erica is a former West Virginia state delegate. She represented Ohio County in the Wheeling area for many years. Erica, thank you so much for being part of this tonight.
Thank you for the invitation. I look forward to having a discussion with you and Randy about it.
Yes, and we are waiting for Randy to get logged in here. Erica, I know you are a West Virginia native. You have been through a lot of elections. I've been here. I've been part of the state in different markets since 2009, and I feel like this has been one of the most cutthroat, constant election cycles we have seen in this state in a really long time.
It really has. There's been a lot of money spent on behalf of the candidates and also by the candidates, and that has led to a lot of that negative campaigning that everyone gets so tired of. And to your point, very cutthroat, especially what has gone on in the last week or so in Wheeling. So yes, I think everyone is ready for it to be over.
Yes, I can definitely understand that. Now we have a lot of different races that we are going to look at here tonight. And while we wait for Randy to get back on, let's start with the gubernatorial race here in West Virginia. This will be the first time that the state has seen a new governor since Jim Justice was officially sworn in at the beginning of 2017. He has hit his 2-term limit and is obviously running for U.S. Senate. But let's talk a little bit about this gubernatorial race, especially on the Republican side. Democrat Steve Williams is the only Democrat in the race. He's walking into November, but he's going to be facing either Patrick Morrissey, Mac Warner, Moore Capito, or Chris Miller. I think if you have been anywhere in the state of West Virginia in the last few weeks, you've probably seen one of their commercials.
It would be very difficult to not. And there's been, like I said, to that point, a lot of spending, even on the individual candidate level, incredible amount of spending. It is just insane, to me, who ran a local delegate race, the level of spending that has happened in this gubernatorial race. And to see some candidates in excess of $6 million, other candidates spending in excess of $3 million. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, Mac Warner, didn't have those type of resources, and he spent under $400,000. But there's just been a huge amount of spending, and it's very difficult to turn on your TV and not hear a pro one candidate, negative other candidate, just banter back and forth. It's like you're watching a tennis match oftentimes whenever you're turning on the television.
Absolutely. And Erica, we just had Randy join us. Hey, Randy.
Can you talk to anybody?
Looks like I'm here now.
Randy, can you hear me?
She's talking to you.
Hey, Randy.
Tell her no.
All right, we're gonna mute Randy here while he figures out the microphone situation. Erica, you were talking a little bit about the money that was spent via Amelia Nisley, who's with West Virginia Watch. Patrick Morrissey has spent $3,077,121 in this race. Moore Capito was second with $1,519,000. Chris Miller with $6,175,751. So, as you mentioned, there was a ton of money coming into this race, and that's just the spending on their behalf. That doesn't include all the money that was coming from outside PACs. I know we saw a lot of ads that had nothing to do coming with any of these campaigns, but rather some outside PACs that were very interested in who wins this race.
Yes, obviously PACs have a vested interest in supporting a candidate who supports their interests, and those numbers aren't even out yet. Like you said, I mean, this is indication of over $10 million spent in one state's party's gubernatorial race. And I can't even imagine what those PAC dollars will look like, but it's going to be extensive as well.
Oh, absolutely. And then when you look at this race, this was an interesting one because obviously, you know, Patrick Morrisey and Mac Warner are names that people that have lived in the state will probably know because, you know, Patrick Morrisey has been the attorney general since 2012. Mac Warner has been in his role for, gosh, a long time. Then Moore Capito is obviously a name that a lot of people know because the Capito name is one that has pretty strong roots throughout the state. Then, of course, you've got Chris Miller, who is, you know, a business owner, somebody whose name is well known, especially if you've ever bought from Dutch Miller, places like that. Do you think name recognition plays into any of this when it comes to a race like this?
Definitely name recognition will be a factor because, you know, I think that gives people a tie to that candidate, and that is helpful for them to make that connection and to understand and to build on how they think that candidate will represent them, whether that candidate will or will not in that manner and mechanism. But I think name recognition is definitely one that people are drawn to.
Absolutely. And then I'm taking a live look at the West Virginia Secretary of State's website as we're talking. Right now, only one county has fully reported, that is Wood County. But we do have 144 of just over 1,600 precincts reporting. And we mentioned, you know, Donald Trump and Joe Biden have already been called by the AP. But looking at the U.S. Senator race, right now, Jim Justice has a 58% to 31% lead on Alex Mooney. So that is one that we have had our eyes on. We're looking at the Republican contest. Let's take a look at the Democratic ones. And then on the U.S. Senator Democratic side, right now, again, very small amount of precincts reporting. But right now, Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott actually has just over 52% of the vote. Zachary Shrewsbury is right behind him at 31%. Don Blankenship coming in at 16.3%. So just looking at some of these early numbers, obviously we still have a long ways to go. But Erica, you as somebody that was in the legislature, you worked closely with the governor. Can you tell me a little bit about the importance of the role of the governor and kind of how he works with the state legislature in getting bills passed that affect, you know, your everyday West Virginians?
Well, the governor is the executive for the state, sets his priorities, and those are outlined in detail to every resident in the state through his State of the State address. And then that is relayed to the legislature as well the following day when he presents his budget bill, which outlines his priorities. And so, you know, if you want to get the legislation passed, to get it through both bodies of the legislature and get it to where he has the opportunity to sign it, especially for his key pieces of legislation, he has to have open communication and explain to the least legislative leadership team, not necessarily each individual legislator, but to the legislative leadership team, his priorities. So open communication and an ability and a willingness to work with the legislature is really important to getting your agenda through. I think that personally, I think that could be a benefit to Moore Capito being a member of leadership and serving in the role of House Judiciary Chair. He's been in those meetings with the governor, so maybe he could take what went well or what didn't go as well in those meetings and tweak on them. Like you said, Chris Miller is a businessman, but he has been a successful businessman. So with that, he gets things done to run his agenda for his business every day. So he's used to building a team as well. And similarly, Mac Warner has assembled a team of individuals in the Secretary of State's office that have been working with him to forward his agenda. And our current Attorney General, being Patrick Morrisey, he has as well, with trying to get the initiatives of his focus through. So I think each of them, hopefully they recognize the real importance of relationships and communication.
It helps when I put the microphone back up. This is what happens when I get a dry throat. I'm sorry. We've seen a lot of really big decisions come through the state legislature over the last few years, anything from campus carry to abortion. But one of the things I think that affects a lot of people around here is the state income tax. Now, under the current plan, this is a phase out type of plan. And Morrissey, Warner, and Capito have all said they'd like to kind of see that if maybe move along a little bit faster, but pretty much keep it on the general track it's on. But also, Chris Miller is saying if he comes in, I think he mentioned his top 3 priorities. One was state income tax is gone. When you look at that state income tax, as somebody who's been in the room, who understands the number crunching that goes along with this, what do you think would be the best movement forward with getting rid of it? Do you think it's better in segments as it's being done, or do you think it's better as something being cut immediately?
Well, as a member of the legislature that was present discussing the reduction of the state income tax and what that would look like, I participated and believe that it is better to do it incrementally, because then you're not trying to backfill such a big budget deficit. And the income tax represents a large portion of the budget. And if you would just remove that, I appreciate Chris Miller's comments that he believes people coming into the state and spending their money in the state and what other means he believes will backfill that. But that's not going to be immediate. And we're going to have budgets, they're going to have holes in them until we can have these people in the state and have these other businesses come to the state, or whatever he's believing is going to create that lack of deficit. So I think it's a little bit irresponsible to say that you can just cut the state income tax, just flat out cut it, because like I said, it does represent such a big portion of the state budget. But I think the trajectory it is now is a wise one, because there are mechanisms that will trigger further reductions, and those mechanisms will have to be, or benchmarks will have to be hit to reduce the tax further. So I like the way it's set currently. And I think, honestly, we have had a few years of extra and surplus, but those aren't going to hold out forever. So unfortunately, if that's going to be our mindset, we're going to be in a precarious situation trying to fill holes that didn't need to exist.
Absolutely. Now, Erica, I want to mention, we just got a tweet in from Olivia Zinn. Olivia is in Wheeling tonight covering the mayoral and council races. And so I just kind of want to roll through some of the numbers. So far, this is only 5 of 36 precincts reporting. So still very early on, but the first results we have Denny Magruder leading the mayoral race with 267 votes. Right behind him is Rosemary Ketchum with 226. That is followed by JT Thomas at 125, Chad Thalman with 120, Beth Heinball with 40, and Carl Carpenter with 9. So right off the bat, again, very early, only 5 of 36 precincts reporting. Right now, Denny Magruder with a slight lead. So again, this is very early on, and we're still waiting to hear from a lot more precincts with that. She also did tweet out some of the wards. And so just quickly running through it right now, Tony Asaro is leading in Ward 1, which is currently the ward that Chad Thalman represents and would not be anymore. In Ward 2, right now, Ben Seidler has the lead. In Ward 3, it is a tight race between Connie Kane and Jerome Henry. Ward 4 still has not reported. Ward 4, 5, and 6 still have nobody reporting. So just some little updated numbers there. And it looks like right now, again, Denny Magruder has a slight lead with 5 of 36 precincts reporting. So getting back to some of these statewide races, this is one is actually federal. I know we've dealt with Jim Justice a lot over the last 8 years as the West Virginia governor. We have also seen Alex Mooney a lot, while maybe not as long as Jim Justice. Alex Mooney has held a congressional seat for almost a decade, a little over a decade, and has represented West Virginia's 2nd congressional district here since 2022. Those two are facing off for the U.S. Senate seat. Now, we have seen some different places calling the race for justice. Nothing has been made official quite yet. But Erica, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this race between Mooney and Justice. I mean, Mooney came out literally the night he beat David McKinley in 2022 and said he was running to beat Joe Manchin. Jim Justice kind of wavered on this for a while and then came out 6 or 8 months ago saying that he was going to run, based off of what we, have seen from polls from West Virginia Metro News. Jim Justice has held a pretty solid lead throughout most of this. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this race and, the seat possibly being flipped from Joe Manchin's Democratic blue to a red seat.
Well, I think what I hear when I have heard people talk about this race, it's the perception that they viewed it as offensive that Congressman Mooney came out claiming he was going to run for the U.S. Senate seat. Like you said, immediately upon winning that Senate seat or that congressional seat in 2022. And so I think, that was offensive, especially here in Ohio County, which was former Congressman McKinley's home district and one of the counties he carried in the 22 election cycle. But I think, Governor Justice is very popular, whether it be baby dog or not, he's very popular. And all indications are leading to him winning this primary. It's interesting because there are 7 candidates in this race. And like you said, 6 mayoral candidates in the city of Wheeling. And I think the city of Wheeling is going to come down to a lot smaller numbers between the candidates than these 7 in this U.S. Senate race. This is largely the Justice Mooney race and then 5 other people, where I probably should have looked at the filing dates of the other 5. But if any of the 5 filed before the governor, I imagine there was kind of a collective sigh of, once he filed, because he is incredibly popular. Over the past few years, he has consistently been in the top 10 popularity level of governors.
All right, Erica, we're going to try to add Randy here again. Hey, Randy, can you hear me okay? Trying to see. Randy, you hearing me okay? I think we're struggling a little bit on the... Erica, you're hearing me well, right?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. All right. And then, Erica, I do want to mention the AP did just call 2 minutes ago that Jim Justice wins the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate in the West Virginia primary election. So that was called at 8:15. So barring anything major, it does seem like, Jim Justice is going to be facing off against one of the 3 Democrats in that race. And I'm looking to see if we have any updated numbers on that. Let's check this. Right now, we still only have 72 precincts reporting. Glenn Elliott still holds a lead over Zachary Shrewsbury, though that has gotten smaller. Glenn with just 47.27% of the vote, while Zachary Shrewsbury is looking at 36.3%. So we can't officially call the Jim Justice being the GOP representative coming up on this U.S. Senate seat. And then, Erica, just talk a little bit about what flipping this Senate seat that has been, Joe Manchin has been in the spotlight nationwide for the last 3-4 years. If the Republicans are able to flip this seat, what would this mean? Well,
Joe Manchin has been definitely a topic of conversation in so many rooms, in so many places. He's got a lot of power in the Senate, and he's been the kind of wild card for the party. What's he going to do? There's still controversy, I believe, as far as what his future plans look like. I don't think anyone really believes that he may just fade into the sunset and quietly enjoy retirement and just come back to his West Virginia roots and be a calm, concerned citizen. So, but maybe he may be looking for that kind of life at this stage after all the craziness that he's been witnessing up front and personal, or up close and personal in Washington. So I think it'll be really interesting. I mean, I think the governor will embrace it. And like I said, he's very popular. So I think the governor will have a little bit of belief that, he was the one that flipped it because, he's the candidate who's prevailing in this for all intents and purposes. But it'll be really interesting to watch how that plays out in his practical application of being a senator, how he'll navigate Washington, what that will look like. There's been controversy around the governor over the last 8 years. My former colleague Isaac Spinagle filed a lawsuit against him for not living in the governor's mansion in Charleston. So I think there will be he'll bring controversy for sure. There will be conversations, definitely.
All right. Well, so again, if you are just tuning in, the AP has called the U.S. Senate GOP race for Jim Justice as of 8:15. So the current governor will be moving on to the November general election to face whether it is Zachary Shrewsbury, Glenn Elliott, or Don Blankenship. So, Erica, quickly, with Alex Mooney making the run for the U.S. Senate, that does leave a congressional seat open here in I find this so odd that it's District 2, but we are the top half of the state. You would think it would be a little bit different there, but maybe I just overthink things. That race is Riley Moore, Chris Walker, Alexander Gasserud, Joe Early, and Nate Kane. Now, this is one that from early on has kind of favored Riley Moore. Looking at somebody, this is the first time somebody in the seat won't be Alex Mooney or David McKinley since like 2010. What do you think that does for that role, having somebody who has not been in there before, completely new, step in?
Well, I think one of the benefits to having Riley Moore in that role would be that we would get back to having a congressional representative who knows where the Northern Panhandle is, because I don't believe that our current congressman has spent much time in the Northern Panhandle or really the rest of the district to some extent outside of his campaigning, which kind of started as soon as he was sworn in for the role. But I've been impressed with all the candidates, several of the candidates. Some of them I haven't heard anything about or from. Obviously, money is another thing. And when you have the money going into the gubernatorial races, going into the U.S. Senate races, congressional seats are up there as well. But some of these candidates just don't have the funding to pull off a race to get their name out there to the public. But I do think, like you said, Riley he's been successful in a statewide race on a couple different times as our treasurer. So, he has experience with working the state. He has experience with campaigning all around the state. So that obviously would give him an edge as well. And like I said, I'm just happy to have somebody who knows where the Northern Panhandle is.
Well, looking at some of the numbers, these were updated 8 minutes ago on the West Virginia Secretary of State's office. Right now, Riley Moore is leading. He's got a pretty healthy lead over the second person is Joe Early. Riley Moore is looking at 45% of the vote. The next one behind him is at 17. So this is still with 0 of the 27 counties in the northern half of the state fully reporting. So again, very early numbers, but it's looking like a really good start for him. So that is what we're looking at there. Also, I'm just going to run through some of these other statewide races. Right now, again, with one county out of 55 reporting, and we have 72 precincts, so still very, very early. Patrick Morrissey has 37% of the vote, and this just updated. So we are now at 181 of 1,600 precincts reporting. Right now, Patrick Morrissey is leading that gubernatorial race. He has 37% of the vote. Moore Capito is right behind him at 28% of the vote. Then we have Mac Warner at 17% and Chris Miller at 15%. Kevin Christian and Mitch Roberts both with 1%. So interesting so far, Erica. I think I expected Chris Miller to, again, it's early, but maybe be playing a little more role at the top of these numbers than he is right now.
Well, and it depends which county and which candidate ties or has ties to that county that is reporting. So, that's probably not odd. If it was Cabell
One
County,
is Wood County. Yeah. Wood
Yep.
County is one of them. So I believe that is where, um, so we are completely reported in, let's see here, Mercer and Wyoming. So I guess that really doesn't, nobody really from there. But yes. Okay. So those are some of the numbers we're looking at right now. Again, I'm seeing a video of more ballots being delivered in Kanawha County. So obviously a lot of action still taking place. Here's what we have of the Wheeling mayoral race right now as of 8:25. Denny Magruder still in the lead. I'm trying to see how many precincts we have reporting right now. Let me take a look at what Olivia has got. Okay, Olivia is saying that with 13 of 36 precincts reporting. So Denny Magruder is still leading in that one. Rosemary Ketchum still sitting at second place. And looking through some other local ones, we did have somebody ask if we're going to report on races in Brooke County. We do have Bill Steinbach in Brooke County right now. Looking right now, again, we are nowhere near everything being. They're actually doing pretty well. There are 15 of 21 precincts reporting in Brooke County already. The two big things that we are following for that right now, it looks like one of them is the Board of Education, the Brooke County Board of Education renewal levy. That is looking like it's going to pass. There's a lot of people for that and not a lot against. And right now, I think a race a lot of people have also been looking at is that state senator first district between incumbent Ryan Weld and Scott Adams, who has been in law enforcement up and down the Ohio Valley over the years. So right now, and this is with 15 of 21 precincts reporting in Brooke County, Ryan Weld has 2/3 of the votes. So he's got 66.65%, Scott Adams with 33.35%. But no matter what the numbers come out to in Brooke County, that does not declare anything because they'll also have to come in Hancock, Brooke, and parts of Ohio County. So right now, yes, part of
all of Ohio,
Northern,
parts of Marshall.
Parts of Marshall, yes. That's whenever they redistrict these. But yes, so right now, Ryan Weld, at least with the lead in Brooke County. So that is one that we are looking at right now. Okay, now we got 24 of 36 precincts reporting in Wheeling. We've still got Denny. Denny's lead is growing. Denny has 34.5% of the vote. He is followed up by Rosemary Ketchum with 23.95% of the vote. She is followed by JT Thomas at 20.68 with Chad Thalman at 14.95. So Erica, I think it's a good time for us to look at this race a little bit. Well, let's see. I'm being told we think Randy is in. Let's see if we can get this. Randy, can you hear me okay? Oh, now we can't hear you. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Randy, you there? Unmute. Here, Randy, go ahead and click unmute. Okay, you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Woo, we got him. All right.
Yeah.
Randy, happy primary night. Good to see you.
You too, Erica. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Randy, we were just about to get into talking about the Wheeling mayor race. I was just telling Erica the most updated numbers we have as of 2 minutes ago, 24 of 36 precincts reporting in this race. Right now, Denny Magruder with a relatively healthy lead. He's got 34.5% of the vote. Rosemary Ketchum with 23.9, JT Thomas with 20.6, and then Chad Thalman with 14.95. For both of you guys, any surprises in this? Erica, we'll let you go first. I know you live in Wheeling, so we'll let you go first on this one.
No, I think many people voted early in Wheeling, and so with the last week and all the drama that came by not a candidate, but the mailers that had come out, I think people had already either voted or had their mind made up as to who they were planning to vote for, to cast their ballot for. So I really don't think that moved the needle much. I think the candidates got out and laid out their ideas, and they had a lot of platforms, including the one with 9 in the Wheeling Chamber, to express their ideas to the community. And I mean, it was great because in races like where the spending is the spending level it has been for, like we were talking about the governor's race and all those, that doesn't give these more local races, these candidates, the opportunity to get out there and share their message. So those type of events gave them the opportunity to share their platform. So I think they were great. I think they were better researched races than some of the other ones, and hopefully the people voted accordingly.
And then, Randy, you know what? I'm actually going to hop to Hancock County, if you don't mind. I know this is your backyard. We just got some results from Hannah Hayes. She tweeted them sideways, so please excuse my turn. Right now, we just have 12 precincts reporting. But right now, Mark Ziteslo is leading Michelle Slates. Now, Mark Ziteslo has been in that county for quite a while. Michelle Slates is a newcomer to the political arena. And then also Tommy Ogden right now with the lead over Tony Lascola for that county commissioner seat. Randy, I know Jeff Davis has been serving on that county commission for over 20 years. He's an institution up there. With him leaving and somebody new coming in, what do you think something like that is going to do for this county commission?
Well, it's going to be interesting because both candidates that are running are new to politics. I mean, Tommy's running some races, but Tony's new. And so, it's going to be a learning curve for him where Jeff, as you said, had a lot of years of experience, and he was kind of the anchor to that commission up there. And so, whether it's Tommy or Tony, they're probably going to be listening more than they are talking in the beginning and trying to get up to speed before they start to really get deep into the decision making.
Yeah, I think that was I know Hannah was at the meeting where he announced he would not be rerunning, and I think that was a shock to everybody on the commission and a lot of people in that county too.
No, I agree. I actually had talked to Jeff the day before, and he hadn't mentioned anything about it. I think it was a decision he'd been discussing with his family for quite a while. And, I mean, these positions, as Erica can tell you, can become very stressful over time. And sometimes, you just need to step away and kind of start, enjoying your family and, the other things in life, vacations and what have you. And Jeff has certainly gave a lot to the community, and, he continues to through his businesses, but, I understand it.
All right. And then I'm just going to pop up some more. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm kind of going as our reporters are sending me pictures and tweeting. Looking in Ohio County, we have 24 of 36 precincts reporting in Ohio County. Ohio County will be seeing a new sheriff next year. Sheriff Tom Howard hitting his term limits and actually running for magistrate. But so John Haglock is the only Democrat on the ticket. He will be up in November, but he was facing off against either Nelson Croft or Charlie Murphy. Nelson was a deputy with the sheriff's office for a long time. And then Charlie Murphy was a magistrate for, I want to say 20 years. Right now, as I said, with 24 of 36 precincts reporting, it looks like Nelson has a 55% of the vote and Charlie's at 45. So that looks like it's staying pretty tight in that one. So we are now to 29 of 36 precincts reported in Wheeling. Just taking a quick look at that. Also, shout out to all of our WTOV reporters who are literally not even all over the Ohio Valley, but also we have folks with the Morrissey camp, the Riley Moore camp. So please at home, if you are, trying to keep updated on these things, you can find them on our website. They're all over Twitter, Facebook. We will be all over the place. So shout out to everybody who is, election night. I'm sure as you guys, it's stressful for you guys when you're running for something, you're waiting for numbers. We're like chickens with our heads cut off. There's a lot of running around. You're sweaty by the time you get on air, but it's a lot of fun. So looking at the most recent numbers, 29 out of 36 precincts in Wheeling, we've still got Denny is now up to an 11% lead on Rosemary Ketchum. And then JT Thomas is at 20%, Chad still around 15%. Beth Einbaugh has pulled in about 5% of the vote, and Carl Carpenter with 0.63% of the vote. Again, this is with 7 precincts left to report. So I talked to a few people leading up to this, and we joked that somebody could have won this race with about 23% of the vote. So this one's been a tight one. It's been very interesting to watch, but you both have been in races, and I know that, when it comes to political stuff can get mean, it can get dirty. When you saw some of the advertisements, some of the commercials that were coming down, some of the stuff that was happening with the illegal mailers in Wheeling over the last week, how hard is that as you are, running for a position and you're trying to focus on running a good campaign and getting through all this, to also be dealing with these, whether it's negative mailers or people taking hits as you're going through this?
Well, over the years, I've run in numerous campaigns, and I've got hit with mailers, and I can tell you probably 9 times out of 10, those mailers aren't coming from your opponent; they're coming from third-party PACs, and I've been able to take the hits pretty well over the years, but the ones that really get hit the hardest is the families. They take it personally, and they get pretty worked up over it, and it's probably harder trying to deal with the families actually than the mailers. I know that sounds a little off, but as a candidate, you got to be thick-skinned. But the families get caught up in this, and it's really unfair to them. But it's how it works, unfortunately, sometimes.
Erica, have you ever kind of had to deal with something like this where it's just, I feel like this would be so much added stress on top of just everything else you're dealing with?
Well, I agree with Randy. I have been fortunate in any of the races I have ever run. Every candidate has stayed positive. They've stayed on focusing on what they're bringing to the seat or what they hope to do in that role, and they haven't gotten negative. That's not to say that there hasn't been negative pieces created about me. And Randy's right, 100%. That is harder on the family. The family hasn't signed up for this. The family is there supporting you because they love you. They're not, they don't necessarily have the thick skin that the candidate has to have to make it in this kind of world. But it's upsetting because, like I said, these 6 candidates were focused on positivity. They had great platforms to get their message out to the community. They had been doing a great job. They'd been cordial to each other. And then to have that as a blow, that was very sad. It was very sad to see happen. And I know the community is outraged, and hopefully something will be done.
Yeah. And I do think, this was something, the timing of it was kind of tough to dig too much into it before everything. But I do think that I know there are a lot of eyes, including my own, that are digging into this. So we are hoping that this will kind of be brought to light. So taking a look at some of the updated numbers, right now, Riley Moore, the AP estimates 42% of the vote is counted with Riley Moore with 45% of the vote. Nothing has been called in that race, but things looking pretty good for Riley in the 2nd congressional district race. Again, Denny Magruder with a pretty healthy lead in the Wheeling mayoral race. We're looking at a relatively tight race in Ohio County when it comes to the sheriffs. Our Jesse Kane is also going to be, he continues to look up all of this stuff, but he's also covering the school levies. We have a few school levies up and down, and then we are still waiting for numbers, still have not seen anything from Marshall County. So we are still waiting to hear from those. And then I'm just going to take a quick look at the Secretary of State's office, looking at the U.S. Senator race in the Democrats. We have the AP at 8:15 did call Jim Justice as the winner of the GOP nomination for the U.S. Senate seat. He beat Alex Mooney. And so the big question is now who will be facing him in November. And that right now is down to 3 Democrats, Glenn Elliott, who is the current Wheeling mayor, Zach Shrewsbury, and Don Blankenship. When we talked, Eric, I think we mentioned this about 15 minutes ago, and Glenn had a sizable lead on Zachary Shrewsbury. it is now down to 5% in difference of votes. Glenn with 44% and Zachary Shrewsbury with 39%, Don Blankenship looking at just over 17. I'm looking at the county breakdowns. We still have not had any of the Northern Panhandle counties fully report. So we don't really have numbers from that. Shrewsbury did very well in Mercer. He is from Princeton. So I think he is kind of the hometown boy in that race. It looks like he also did very well in Wyoming County. Again, Raleigh County as well, and Boone County. Again, these are all close to where he lives and where he works. So I think he had some name recognition down that way. And we're still waiting for, we currently only have 2 counties fully reporting. So we're working on that as well. So let me check our Twitter again and see if we've got anything major. 31 of 33 or 31 of 36 precincts in Wheeling. Denny's still looking like a pretty sizable lead. So looking at those, I think a lot of people this is a presidential election year, and that is what gets the limelight, is obviously who's going to be our next president. Randy, we'll start with you. Can you just talk a little bit about the importance of local elections, whether you're talking about a council person, a local state senator, a governor? Can you talk a little bit about how this affects somebody that's sitting in, Chester, more so than who's going to be elected to president in November?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Jamie. And the old saying is all politics is local, and there's a lot of truth to that, because you get the municipal representatives, the county, your state representatives, your state senators. They're the ones that they see the people every day. They see them in the stores. They see them when they're out and about on the streets and the restaurants. So they can hear what's on the people's mind, and then that can just get funneled up, from city to county to state to Charleston, and from Charleston to Washington. So the whole structure is very important, the way it's in place, and and that's why it's important when people are choosing their representatives to make sure they're going to choose the folks that they feel are going to represent, what they want them to take, to whether it's to Charleston or to Washington. But they're all very important positions, and some, maybe don't get the recognition that they deserve, but they're an important part of the whole structure.
Well, I've seen in a lot of the state, they were saying that early voter turnout was really, really low this year. Obviously, the numbers in 2020 were a bit skewed because of COVID. But Erica, is that something that's concerning to you? Seeing low early voting numbers? We've heard a lot of people were just very put off by a lot of the ads and things of the such. Do you think that's concerning, or do you think that may not play as huge of a role?
Well, I actually heard Wheeling's early voting numbers were up, but it's always concerning when those that have the right to vote or have the ability to vote don't get out and vote. I think there have been strives to make it easy as possible to vote. If you're not going to be around on election day, you have plenty of opportunities to go down to the city county building and vote in advance. It's well communicated. The hours are feasible for anyone to get out there various times of the day. Saturdays, they're open for people to go vote. So it's just very disheartening when you can vote if you don't go vote. So I hope, I heard a lot of times, especially over this last week, that primaries aren't motivators for people to vote. Most people will say they vote in the general and they don't vote in the primary. Well, this election cycle could very easily be determined in the primary. So hopefully, if that's your thought process, maybe as you see these results come in, and hopefully they're not determined by 20% of eligible voters, because that would just be sad if we have that low of a turnout.
Absolutely. And we are now looking at Ohio County, 31 and 36 precincts reporting. I think we're going to see some final numbers here from Wheeling and Ohio County pretty fast. After working in Ohio County for a handful of election nights, I have to say those folks are so efficient and so easy to work with. So I'm not surprised to see these coming out so fast. County Commissioner Don Nickerson is running for re-election. He's unopposed. So he is in. We've got right now Nelson Croft with a 54% of the vote lead to Charlie Murphy, who's at 46% of the vote. Again, this is 31 of 36 precincts reporting. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And then we're also going to take a look, as you can see from the West Virginia Secretary of State's office. This was just updated 3 minutes ago. These races have been called. I know this one doesn't really affect us, but the numbers on the House of Representatives, 1st Congressional District Rep, was not expecting those to be that close. So I am finding that one very interesting. Carol Miller, who has been a congresswoman for many years, and Derek Evans, used to be in the state legislature, but got in some trouble with January 6th, who is running against her. So that one's been interesting. We're still looking at Riley Moore with a really sizable lead. And then let me check how many precincts we have reporting. 201 of 1643. Now they're now saying 0 counties are reporting. That's changed about 8 times. So we're just going to kind of go with the numbers they're showing us. But right now, as you can see, Patrick Morrissey is still doing pretty well in that race. Still have a lot of time left, but Patrick Morrissey still with a sizable lead here in the governor's race. And then let's flip things over to the Democratic contests. As we mentioned, Joe Biden and Donald Trump both won their tickets. And we can see Glenn Elliott's lead over Zachary Shrewsbury continues to shrink. It's now about 700 votes. And again, this is early. We still have a lot of precincts reporting, but right now, Glenn Elliott does have the lead on the Democratic ticket for U.S. Senate. So those are some of the big statewide ones. I'm going to go ahead and take this back to my Twitter. I made a special list for tonight to see if we have any final results. Chloe Mezagaitis with Riley Moore's camp in Charlestown, West Virginia. As she's saying, update as of 8:48 p.m. Early celebrations have begun at the Riley Moore camp. Nothing has officially been called yet, but just based off those numbers, with 64% of the votes counted, looking pretty good for Riley Moore right now. So we have that. And that looks like the most of our updates here with this one. Like we said, we are waiting for 5 more precincts in Ohio County. I know a lot of people have had their eyes on that race. And I'm looking to see, trying to see if I can find the numbers for Ryan Weld and, oh, here we go. So they're saying 0% has, that's good. So the Secretary of State's office says that nobody is reported in the state senator first senatorial district. We have heard from Bill Steinbach, who Ryan Weld was doing very well in Brooke County. But we're still waiting to hear from other counties on that race. In the currently up 75% over current Senator Mike Maroney. But again, these look like they are very early numbers. 0 of 6 counties that they cover fully reporting. So that is where we stand with our state senators. Let me scroll down and see if we have any House of Delegates. No, none of those are looking particularly good either. So we're still kind of relying on our wonderful reporters here to see what we've got. Oh, here we've got some Marshall County races. All right, we got 15 of 35 precincts in. Right now, ooh, that's a tight race for Marshall County Sheriff. William Helms has been the sheriff the last 4 years. He was the sheriff deputy sheriff for the 4 years prior to that. Very tight race with Mike Dougherty, who is a former deputy that used to work with them. So that one is looks like it's going to be tight. Wow, look at this one. When we are, oh, you guys can't see this. I'm sorry, as I'm yelling this. For the House of Delegates 6th district between Jake Padlow and Jeff Stevens, right now it is 637 votes to 636. So literally one vote separating that race. Again, this is 15 out of 35 precincts reporting.
And who says their vote doesn't count?
Yeah, exactly. And then in this, again, in Marshall County, for the state Senate second district. Now this involves five other counties. So these numbers don't determine anything, but right now, Chris Rose has a slight lead on Mike Maroney. So that is kind of our updated numbers. And then I just want to you both have touched on this, and I really do think it's important. You mentioned, Erica, you think your vote doesn't matter, especially in these local races. How important is it for people to go out and vote in these?
Well, like you said, I mean, now obviously it's not a final result, but what if you were the one guy that didn't get out to vote, or you didn't drive your family members to go vote, or whatever the case may be, that you would be that one that could have pushed your candidate over the edge? I mean, in Wheeling, we've seen our council races come very close, our mayoral races. I mean, there's a lot of indication that your vote counts, especially like Randy said, with all politics being local. It might not matter when you're casting a ballot for a U.S. Senate seat or for the president, but it definitely counts for these local races. It's very important that every vote is counted and that each person takes advantage. If they're able to vote, they do.
And Randy, tell me a little bit of just like with your thoughts on all of this. You know, we've seen some pretty tight races in different local elections over the last few years. I feel like a lot of people think, especially with these primary, oh, I'll get there in November. All I care about is the presidential race. But there's so much more to it.
Well, there certainly is. And as Erica said, every vote counts. And over the years, I've seen a lot of really close races. I mean, I can remember a congressional race in West Virginia one time, and it was 150 some votes difference. And, you know, that it seems like a lot of votes, but when you're thinking about, that was the whole first congressional district. And so you were probably looking at, 27 different counties.
All right. I think we just had Randy freeze there. While we're getting him back, I'm going to go ahead and.
A lot of votes. And
there we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mute him until we get him back up. Also, we are just getting updated numbers out of Wheeling. We now have 33 out of 36 precincts reporting, and Denny Magruder with 34.5% of the vote, followed by Rosemary Ketchum at 24.15. JT Thomas still sitting around 20% of the vote. And it looks like Chad Thalman is at 15%. There were 2 write-ins. But right now, I mean, this is looking, as I mentioned, there are 3 precincts left. Can't call anything, but I think this is looking pretty good for Denny Magruder right now. Looking at the wards, in the first ward race, Tony Asaro still with a lead. In the second ward, Ben Seidler still with a lead. In the third ward, so this one's very interesting. Connie Kane has 154 votes. Jerome Henry has 150, and Chris Ham has 140. So again, you think your vote doesn't count. Some of these are coming down super tight. Jerry Sklavanakis right now has 62% of the vote over John Prather. In Ward 5, it looks like Ty Thorngate has a pretty sizable lead. These numbers, man, I'm telling you, late 30s, my eyesight, I need to go see an eye doctor because these are getting hard on my eyes. And it looks like Dave Palmer has a pretty 71% of the vote in Ward 6. Again, we still have 3 wards coming, or not 3 wards, but 3 precincts coming in. But right now, looking to really favor those folks that have a tight one. So right now, again, if you're just tuning in, right now, Denny Magruder has a pretty sizable lead with 3 precincts left to report in the Wheeling mayoral race. Have there been any races that you guys have looked at locally that have really stood out to you as you were starting to make your decision when it comes to who you're going to vote for next? Randy, we'll ask you this question first. Is there one that you've really enjoyed watching or you've been particularly interested in?
Definitely the commissioner's race up here is one that I've been keeping an eye on, as well as everyone else. I mean, with basically the changing of the guard taking place with Jeff Davis and a newcomer, it's been the race that everybody's watched. And, as I said earlier, new candidates, Escola is a brand new to the political arena. I know he wore a lot of leather out during the campaign. Tommy, he's running some races, so he's got some name recognition out there. So I think everyone's watching that race pretty close. We have a magistrate's race up here tonight between Miranda Keeter and Steve Savakis. I think people are keeping an eye on that one, but those are the main races that I hear people talking about out there.
And Erica, has there been any that has really stood out for you?
Well, like I said, I've taken advantage of the opportunities presented by our community to get it really vested and gather information on all the mayoral candidates. It was unfortunate that didn't trickle down to the various ward candidates as well. But I think I've had a good opportunity to do fact finding, to hear their platforms and really understand where they stood on the issues. I was thinking when Randy was saying about his races, I mean, I typically watch the county commission races. Those are interesting to me. And as a member of the Ohio County Development Authority, I have kind of vested interest in that, but we didn't have a challenger for our current commissioner who's up for re-election. So, my focus was really on the mayoral race.
And that has been a very interesting one. We are still looking to see. We are still waiting for those final 3 precincts in that one. It looks like right now with more than 44,000 votes recorded, Patrick Morrissey leads the race still. More Capito is behind him. Patrick Morrissey has 37.8% of the votes. More Capito trails with 27%. So again, we still have a lot of time left on that one. I think everybody knew that was going to be a tight race. That has been a race. Erica and I talked about this at the beginning, and Randy, I'll ask you about it. According to Amelia Nisley, who works for West Virginia Watch, does a fantastic job at what she does. But she tweeted today that the governor's race spending, Morrissey spent $3,077,121. More Capito spent $1,519,377. Chris Miller spent $6,175,751, and Mac Warner with $378,000. And that does not count the amount of money that was thrown in by outside groups. Something like that. I mean, that amount of money, kind of makes your eyes pop a little bit when you see something like that, Randy.
And I've said for years, it's unfortunate the amount of money that is involved in these races anymore. And if you're not someone who is well off or has the ability to raise the money, you just can't get in these races. It's very difficult for the average person out there that truly wants to get in and make a difference to get in these races. And the governor's race, there's certainly a lot of money, as you mentioned, but it trickles right on down. The state Senate races have continued to grow, the House of Delegate races, all the races, whether it's Secretary of State, Auditor. If you look at the numbers over the years, they've all continued to increase. And it's I've just always thought it was a shame that it seems like the money comes in at the end of the day of who gets elected. It's not always the best person, I will say that.
All right. And I just got a tweet from Bill Steinbach, who's again in Brooke County. So these are unofficial final election results in Brooke County for that state senator 1st district. Ryan Weld got 66% of the vote in Brooke County. Now, again, we still have to hear finals from Hancock, Ohio, and parts of Marshall. So Ryan Weld was able to grab Brooke County, but again, still a lot to wait on. Also, the Brooke County Board of Education renewal levy did pass. seats on the ballot in Brooke County. A lot of folks are either running uncontested or you had one Republican, one Democrat. We'll see them face off in November. So we do have that. And then the AP has officially called the second congressional district race for Riley Moore. That was called at 9 p.m. So Riley Moore will win that ticket. So I don't think that is necessarily a huge surprise to anybody who followed any of the polling or saw the race throughout a lot of this. But so we do have, of guarantees that we have of actual winners, Riley Moore wins the Republican nomination for the U.S. House in the 2nd Congressional District. Jim Justice has won the U.S. Senator GOP ticket to head to the November general election. Let's take a peek in at how that Democratic race is going. And as you can see, Zach Shrewsbury has surged ahead of Glenn Elliott. That's a very tight race right now. As you can see, I'm not good at math, but about a 160 vote difference. But we still have a lot of votes to come in. I did get a text from Jesse Kane who said that Glenn did very well in Ohio County. I think he got about 80% of the vote in Ohio County as of last check. But again, right now we are looking at a very tight contest for that Democratic seat. And, you know, Glenn Elliott did get, you know, I know he's a familiar name to us up here in the Northern Panhandle. He did get the recommendation from current Senator Joe Manchin. In your experience, how much do you think when other, you know, Jim Justice came out and said he's putting his vote behind Moore Capito, how much weight do you guys think something like that holds? Erica, I'll ask you first. Do you think when somebody like a Joe Manchin comes out that is big?
It can be. I will say I got a piece of advice early on in my political life that said to not hitch my wagon to any other candidate's horse because I'd pick up all their enemies and only half their friends. So, but to your question, with Senator Manchin being incredibly popular as he is, Governor Justice being incredibly popular as he is, and even Baby Dog endorsing Moore Capito for governor. Baby Dog may have more weight than the governor, but but it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, you know, because like you said, with Glenn being, well, right now he's behind, but you know, those numbers are going to keep changing as the night goes along. So it'll be interesting to see if that holds true for both Glenn and for Moore with those endorsements coming from those high profile candidates.
Randy, do you feel like that, you know, I know we have seen, you know, maybe the two that were endorsed this time currently not leading, but when you look at, for instance, 2022, when Donald Trump was endorsing candidates, those candidates went on a big run. So do you think something like that helps, or do you think it's kind of one of those 50-50? Sometimes it helps you, sometimes it is what it is.
Well, I think what it comes down to is just how popular is the candidate that's endorsing the candidate. And, you know, Donald Trump, he was very popular. And, you know, when he got behind somebody, you know, it carried some weight. You know, if the candidate during the endorsing isn't that popular with the folks out there, as Erica said, you know, you might not want to hitch up to that wagon. You know, sometimes you're better off just to, you know, be your own person out there. So it could be a double-edged sword, but I certainly would look at how popular the candidate is that's going to endorse me.
And then the AP Politics just tweeted out that Carol Miller won the Republican nomination for the U.S. House in the 1st Congressional District. So we did mention that one looked a little closer than I think anybody expected, but they are calling the race for Carol Miller. That doesn't really affect anybody up here in the northern half of the state. Again, Riley Moore, despite the fact of being the northern half of the state, this is actually District 2. So Riley Moore, that race has been called for him. So those are some of the updates. I'm looking to see if we have anything else from our reporters. It looks like Chloe Mezagaitis has tweeted that Riley Moore is getting ready to speak at his, he was coming up to speak bringing his wife and his kids up as they're getting ready to speak in victory there for the 2nd District. Just scrolling through some of these races. Let's see if we have anything. No, we're still not updated there. That's a bit of a bummer. I was really hoping for this one. This Attorney General race. This is one that I have found very interesting. We're looking at the Republican nominees for this one, J.B. McCuskey, who is the current state auditor, and Mike Stewart, who is a current state senator. Right now, McCuskey with a pretty decent lead in that one. And I did want to take a peek at the Democratic nomination on this because we do have a local in this one. Teresa Torreseva is currently leading Richie Robb with 58% of the vote to his 42. Teresa Torreseva is a Wheeling area attorney running for Attorney General. Richie Robb served, I believe it was 8 straight terms as South Charleston's mayor. It might have been 7 straight terms, but I think this must have been before term limits. But both of those I have found to be very interesting. So looking to see, it looks like we still don't have an update. That last 3 precincts in Wheeling are keeping us on our toes. But for you guys, I mean, you've sat in some of these close races. It's 9-10. What's starting to go through your mind at this point as something hasn't been called or you're waiting to hear final numbers? Erica, for you, what's kind of going on in your head in this moment?
Well, to be honest, on election night, I always made it my mission to go recon all my signs. So I didn't start looking at numbers until generally a lot later in the night because I just wanted, win, lose, or draw, I wanted there to be no remnants of Erica Storch the next morning, especially if I would lose. I didn't want anybody to wake up and to be reminded, or for me to have to drive by a sign that I had placed at one point during the campaign cycle. So it was always my mission to get all my signs down. I often would have friends. When my son was at home, he would often go down to the courthouse and send me numbers as they came out. And then once I got my signs down, then I came home, turned on the TV, and started watching the results come in. So I'm atypical. I don't think that, maybe I'm not, but I just don't think, people generally, it's exciting to watch the results as they come in, but it's just not it wasn't my thing. It was always my thing to get my signs.
And Randy, for you, so it's months of work. So for it to come down to this, is it just kind of like, let's do what we can do?
No, and believe it or not, I'm a lot like Eric. I was always one to, just to keep my mind off of stuff. I would go out and start taking signs down. I can remember in the early days, I would actually have a little 5-inch TV in my truck and would listen to Newsline as the results came in and was watching it on there before I'd head down to the courthouse later in the evening. But yeah, I like getting the signs down, and it was like if things did go the wrong way and we lost, it would have been a lot harder the next day taking them down knowing that you lost. So, it's everybody does something different on election night. Some people, they have the parties, the get-togethers, but that was kind of my routine.
Well, I'm still trying to keep updated on some of these tweets. Riley Moore still giving his victory speech. Chloe says, he said, well, that was quick. He says that his big focus, he told me when I talked to him, I believe it was a week and a half ago as we were previewing the race, wanted to focus on education and obviously securing the border. Now, he did not win. He won the nomination, but he is not officially in. He still has to face Democrat Stephen Wendelin in the November election. Now, something we were talking about recently was that I think a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of races that go uncontested. So how important are these primaries? I think everybody thinks, November is where it matters. But Erica, I think you mentioned earlier in West Virginia, there's a decent amount of races that are being decided tonight.
Yes. every election cycle it changes and it goes back and forth between Democrats being in control, Republicans being in control, each party being in power or whatever. So tonight, while many may not face a challenge in the general cycle in November, there are multiple candidates running for the primary bid on the Republican tickets. And I think generally it's expected that with Trump at the top of the ticket and some of the other down tickets as they're lining up right now, I think people generally expect that the Republicans will see success in November, except, no, that's not always true. And that's especially not true with the local races where these people represent you more close to home in the House and the state Senate and other races as well. But, there's a lot of races I'm watching around the state with various friends of mine, members I started serving with in 2011 that may be seeking other offices now. Some of them are seeking re-election in the Senate now and just trying to hold on to that Senate seat. But it's, there's a lot of flipping with the numbers as these different precincts come in. So it's going to be a long night tonight, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Now we are hearing that they are getting ready to print the final 3 precincts in Wheeling. So we should have some final numbers on that Wheeling mayoral race, county city council, and then that sheriff's race as well. Looking to see if we have anything new from Hancock County. Nothing as of yet. But as we look at this, I guess when you look, let's take another peek at the gubernatorial race. Still sitting pretty close here with Patrick Morrissey. More Capito has climbed a little bit closer in this one. With this race, how do you see things changing? I know when you have a governor for 8 years, it's just kind of like, okay, you get used to them. You kind of know what they're going to do. How does, the next legislative session kind of change when there's somebody else that is at the head of the state? Is there like a huge, for you guys, do you see a marked difference, or is it just kind of like you still do what you do and, they kind of do their own thing?
No, there's definitely changes because, a new governor is going to be appointing new cabinet secretaries. You're going to see a lot of changes in the tunnel, basically where the governor's office and his staff's at, and so yeah, there's a lot of changes, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're bad. It just kind of depends on where they're from and how things work out.
Erica, did you ever find that, when you guys made the switch, when Jim Justice came in 2017, that things really kind of changed from the way Earl Ray Tomblin had kind of been running things?
Well, when Governor Justice came in, he was a Democrat, remember?
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. Yes.
So then that was our first year, which we presented our budget and he presented it back to us on a platter with some condiments with it. So, but then he changed, and I think the leadership and the governor communicated on their objectives. But there were some tumultuous times, especially early on with the new governor. We were trying to advance our initiatives that we had campaigned on individually and collectively as a body to govern the state, but trying to respect that we are one of 3 branches of government and independent of the executive. But there was definitely some turmoil. So I think there will be turmoil, generally speaking, just because of all the different changes that are going to happen. Look at all of our constitutional officers are changing because none of them are seeking re-election. So you're going to have, in addition to a new governor, you're going to have a new attorney general, a new secretary of state, a new treasurer, a new auditor. And then, so the whole Board of Public Works is changing essentially. So it's just going, I don't know, it's going to be a big change. It'll be fun to watch from the cheap seats with popcorn. I'm glad I'm not in the body.
Well, we are getting some final numbers in here. It looks as though in the Hancock County Commission race, Tommy Ogden has defeated Tony Lascola. It looks like 55 to 45% in that one again. So as we look at these numbers, Tommy Ogden, there is nobody running on the Democratic ticket. So it looks as though Tommy Ogden will be the new Hancock County Commissioner. Jeff Davis is stepping down and has been in that seat for over 20 years. Where else? It looks like, based off the numbers we're getting in right now, that Bill Helms has won the sheriff seat in Marshall County over Mike Doherty and Ed Coster. Helms with 47% of the vote, Doherty with 45. So a very tight race in those two. So those are some live numbers we have coming in right now. Again, Tommy Ogden will be the new Hancock County Commissioner, replacing Jeff Davis, who is stepping down after a very long career with the commission. And it looks as though Bill Helms will be returning for a second term as the Marshall County Sheriff. So those are two numbers that we have just gotten in here in the last few minutes. We are still waiting for those final 3 precincts out of Ohio County to determine the Wheeling mayor, the Wheeling City Council seats, also the Ohio County school levy. We have the OVRTA renewal levy on that one. We also have a sheriff's race there. So that one, we are still waiting for the final 3 precincts in that one. So again, here's some of the races that we do know are final. I'm going to pull up WTOV9.com and go off of this. These were updated just a few minutes ago. Joe Biden is your Democratic president nominee. Donald Trump is your Republican presidential nominee. Jim Justice will be the Republican U.S. Senate nominee after beating Alex Mooney. Right now, we are still looking to see what's going to happen with that Democratic seat. If we look at the Secretary of State's office website, which I'm going to do right now, Glenn Elliott has jumped back up on Zachary Shrewsbury in that one, 42% to 39%. I think that one is going to come down to the wire. Whoever ends up getting that ticket will take on Jim Justice in the November election. In the 2nd congressional district on the Republican ballot, Riley Moore has been declared the winner in that race. He will face Stephen Wendelin, the Democrat, in November. In the 1st congressional district for the Republicans, Carol Miller has been declared the winner in that one over Derek Evans. There are 2 Democrats running against each other. That race is still too close to call. In the governor and the Republican, I'm getting texts about the Wheeling race as well. Patrick Morrissey is still with a lead over Moore Capito, though it does look like that race is getting a little bit tighter. In the Democrat side of the Attorney General race, Wheeling attorney Teresa Torreseva has the lead on Richie Robb. J.B. McCuskey has been named the winner in the Republican side of that Attorney General race. So whoever wins that will face J.B. McCuskey in November. So that's some of your statewide races. We are still looking at some pretty tight races here. Mark Zateslo is now with 64% of the vote for the West Virginia House District 2 Republican ballot against Michelle Slates. They will face off against a Democrat in November. When you look at the Senate District 2 Republican, Chris Rose is still got about 1,000 vote lead over Mike Maroney. Maroney has been the state senator for a few terms now. In the District 1 Republican Senate race, 52 of 93 precincts reporting. Ryan Weld has 65% of the vote. Scott Adams with 35% of the vote. Looking at the House District 6, this is the one that was separated by 1 vote in Marshall County, now only separated by 6 votes. Jake Padlow with 449 votes, Jeff Stevens with 443. So that is continuing to stay very close. In the West Virginia House District 4 Republicans, Bill Flanagan is beating Diana Winsen-Reed at 61% to 39%. In District 8, the Republicans, David Kelly is beating Dave Shelton. you know, we are still sitting close with this Wheeling mayor. I just got a text from Olivia Zinn that said Denny Magruder has won. So it looks as though Denny Magruder will be the next mayor of the city of Wheeling. We're still waiting for the exact numbers on that. I think she was just texting me to make sure we had it, but it looks as though Denny Magruder will be the winner of the Wheeling mayoral race. So with that, in about 38 minutes, I need to be live on air. So I'm going to wrap this up. Erica, Randy, thank you so much for being a part of this, for your service and everything you did when you guys were part of the West Virginia legislature, and for continuing to be a part of this with us here tonight. And thank you to everybody who watched. We will be live from 10 to 11 on Fox 9, and then obviously our 11 o'clock news on WTOV 9. We will have as updated of numbers as we possibly can. We have 8 reporters throughout the Northern Panhandle and throughout the state on different races. So please make sure to tune in on air and online, and we will keep you updated. And everybody have a great night. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.